to please the heart of our present Imam, Imam Sahib al-Zaman. The program for tonight will commence with the recitation of the Holy Quran, Ziyarat Aminillah, Arabic, Farsi, Anashid and poetry, lecture by Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi, special new Islamic board presented by Miras Games, the most exciting part, the gifts and lucky door prizes, and we will conclude with Dua, Faraj and dinner. I'll be starting the recitation of the Holy Quran, inshallah. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العلي العظيم صلى على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, if we can please recite aloud salawat, and as we ask Hajj Abu Ahmad on the stage for the recitation of Ziyarat Aminillah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أمين الله في أرضه وحجته على عباده. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. أشهد أنك جاهدت في الله حق جهاده وعملت بكتابه واتبعت سنن نبيه صلى الله عليه وآله حتى دعاك الله إلى جواره فقبضك الله باختياره وألزم أعدائك الحجة مع مالك من الحجج البالغة على جميع خلقه. اللهم فاجعل نفسي مطمئنة بقدرك راضية بقضائك مولعة بذكرك ودعائك محبة لصفوة أوليائك محبوبة في أرضك في أرض شاكرة لفواضل نعمائك ذاكرة لسوابغ آلائك مشتاقة إلى فرحة لقائك متزودة التقوى ليوم جزائك مستانسة بسنن أوليائك مفارقة لأخلاق أعدائك مشغولة عن الدنيا بحمدك وثنائك اللهم إن قلوب المخبتين إليك والها وسبل الراغبين إليك شارعا وأعلام القاصدين إليك واضحا وأفئدة العارفين منك فازعا وأصوات الداعين إليك صاعدا وأبواب الإجابة لهم مفتوحا ودعوة من ناجاك مستجابا وتوبة من أناب إليك مقبولا وعبرة من بكى من خوفك مرحوما والإغاثة لمن استغاث بك موجودا والإعانة لمن استعان بك مبذولا وعداتك لعبادك منجزاه وذل من استقالك مقالا وأعمال العاملين لديك محفوظة وأرزاقك إلى الخلائق من لدنك نازلة وعوائد المزيد إليهم واصلة وذنوب المستغفرين مغفورة وحوائج خلقك عندك مقضية وجوائز السائلين عندك موفورة وعوائد المزيد تواترة وموائد المستطعمين معدة ومناهل الظماء مترعة اللهم فاستجب دعائي واقبل ثنائي واجمع بيني وبين أوليائي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين إنك ولي نعمائي ومنتهى مناي وغاية رجاي في منقلبي ومثواي اللهم أنت إلهي وسيدي ومولاي اغفر لأوليائنا وكف عنا أعدائنا واشغلهم عن آذانا واظهر كلمة الحق واجعلها العليا وادحض كلمة الباطل واجعلها السفلى إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلوات.
Salam, brothers and sisters. Imam Hussein Islamic Center has various programs throughout the week. We have weekly dua tawassul every Tuesday, weekly dua kumail every Thursday. Remembering our loved ones who have passed away. Have you lost someone whom you love dearly? Join our weekly dua kumail program and register the details of your loved ones so our respected reciters may dedicate dua kumail and Surah Al-Fatiha for your marhumin. Let our hands be the hands of the marhumin, raised to the sky through dua kumail to seek forgiveness for our souls and for our loved ones who have passed away. Please recite aloud salawat as we call Sister Manessa Dirani on the stage to recite some amazing poetry for us tonight. Salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat. In the east of my country, a man is peacefully sleeping, a man that shines the light all over the world, all over the countries. Grandchild of the Prophet of Peace, a great source of light, the sign of God that we shouldn't miss. Your golden dome is the place that the sun rays shine at it all day. Your shrine is the place that people's heart pump for visiting. There the hearts are connected to God. Their hearts are connected to the light, as beautiful as the rosebuds. While the voices of humans go loud to praise you, is the time that eyes start to move. Your eyelids will start to get weak. Tears will cover your face. There's no one as a geek. The pigeons are as white as the hearts of humanity. They praise God for His kindness. They praise God for the light of that place. They fly around the people's wet faces. Our love flies toward you, Imam Reza. Happy birthday. You are the source of humanity, criteria and law. Salawat.
Thank you, Sister Manessa Dirani, for the amazing poetry. Please recite aloud salawat for our amazing sister and her family. If I may ask all children 4 years to 13 years to go upstairs for their classes. And please recite aloud salawat for the Ta'jil al-Faraj as we ask His Eminent Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi to come up on the stage for his lecture. Salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
How are you? Doing well, how are you? أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Firstly, I would like to congratulate you all, and especially our master, Imam al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, on this auspicious occasion with the commemoration and the celebration of the birth of the 8th Holy Imam, Al-Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Redha, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. Many people in these days, in the first 10 days of the Qa'dah, are busy like bees between the shrines of Sayyid al-Ma'suma alayhi salam in Qom and Imam al-Redha alayhi salam shrine in Mashhad. And this is a festive occasion. Even in these 10 days in Iran, they consider them as blessed 10 days, and it's a day of days of celebration. However, sometimes we get caught up and our day-to-day lives move us away from what is of utmost importance and what is fundamentally essential for our lives. We forget what is necessary for us spiritually, because there is no peace if we don't have inner peace. And this is what holds the position of the highest importance in our lives. During some of these festive occasions, a family, a father, a mother, and their children went to Mashhad to visit the Imam, and while they're there, they went for the festive occasions. It was during one of the Eids. It could have been the Eid of the Muslims, like Imam al-Redha, or one of the Ayed of the national Ayed of Iran, like the Nowruz. But while they were there, they could see that the shrines were congested. Imam al-Redha's shrine, alayhi salam, was full. It's in fact, even if you go in off-season, there is no off-season for the shrine. Like if you go on ziyarah, I've been ziyarah in Rajab and Sha'ban, and every single shrine in Iraq, I was able to reach the Darih with no problem. Even the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Except in Iran, for some reason, the shrine of Imam al-Redha, it's always too congested for you to get there. Now they saw the numbers were outside. They couldn't even get in. So the family said, it's a festive occasion. Let us indulge in the playgrounds, shopping, go to the Bazari. Imam Reza, Bazar Reza, they go there, they do their shopping. And let us go to the restaurants, enjoy the many restaurants there. And eventually they didn't end up visiting the Imam. So they left Mashhad in the car. As they're leaving, the mother, the wife, looks towards and sees the dome of Ali ibn Musa al-Redha alayhi salam. And she says to the dome, when she looks towards, she says, thank you Thank you for your hospitality. We spent a good time in Mashhad. He said, although we didn't visit you, accept this farewell from me, this farewell, as if we went in to visit. Just take that as if we visited you. And they continue on their journey. As the father's driving along, the car's rumbling, and you know, when the car starts to rumble, you fall asleep. The mother falls asleep, and they get to the point they are about an hour and a half or 2 hours almost away from Mashhad towards Naishapur. When they are there, the mother wakes up and says to the father, I want to go back. And he says, what do you mean you want to go back? He said, turn the car around and take me back to Mashhad. So he says to her, we're on our way home. You know, there's no point in going back. She said, if you do not stop the car or you don't go back, I will get out of the car and make my own way back to Mashhad. So he asks why. She says, while you were asleep, while I was asleep, I saw Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Redha in my dream. And he said, in the dream, he said to me, he said, I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself in my city. And that farewell you gave when you were leaving, it was an accepted ziyarah for you and your family. This is because, and this is why I tell you, you need to understand from inside, this is because the Imam is Imam Ra'uf. He's a merciful Imam, he's a generous Imam. The Imam alayhum as-salam, the Imams are an extension, they're a branch, they are a fork of Allah's mercy and generosity. She realized that they forgot what was important when they came to Mashhad, the family. What is important when I'm going there, and this is what takes us to these places. People that haven't got family in Iran or in Mashhad, why would they go to Mashhad if it wasn't for the grave of Ali ibn Musa al-Redha alayhi salam? So this brings us to the point where people need to understand what's important in life and what is necessary in life and what needs to be done in this life. Al-Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Redha alayhi salam says, ليس العبادة, this is in تحف العقول. He says, ليس العبادة كثرة الصلاة والصوم. The ibadah, worship, is not an increase or a lot of doing or an increase of doing prayers and fasting. Worship isn't about praying a lot. Worship isn't about fasting a lot. This isn't what worship is. He says, إِنَّمَا الْعِبَادَةُ التَّفَكُّرُ فِي أَمْرِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَ. He says, worship is for you to ponder, for you to reflect over what Amrullah is, the ordeal we are in. What we are here for. Yeah, this is a problem. People don't understand. That's why if you notice, the whole world lobbies for stupid things. This cancel culture we live in where no one can give their opinion on anything. Why? Because people have forgotten why we are here. I keep reminding you, we are all terminal. Anyone that doesn't think they're terminal is disillusioned. We all have an expiry date. So it doesn't matter if I marry the person I love. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I get the job I want or not. It doesn't matter if I have the house I want. This all doesn't matter. It has no meaning, but the people forget this. That's why when Anwan al-Basri asked the sixth Imam, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, about when the Imam was speaking to him about haqiqatul ibad, the real worship. What is real worship? Ibadah, sorry, the real servitude or real worship. And it said to be a real servant of God. What does it mean? Haqiqatul ubudiyya, it says to him. Firstly, and I'm going to give you another story here before we go into this. What is haqiqatul ubudiyya? If I want to be, because worship or ibadah is ibadah is being of or being a servant to Allah Azza wa Jal. In fact, we use the word slave. You are a slave to God. It gets given, it's always mentioned in a derogatory connotation, because do you know why whenever anyone thinks of something, they see, like when you mention the word mother, everyone sees it in the worst possible way. If a woman says, for example, I'm a housewife, people see it in the worst possible way. But the funny thing, if someone says I'm a stay-at-home dad, people say, yeah, that's awesome. You ever anyone say it's a problem, someone says I'm a stay-at-home dad? Everything's just changed. All these roles that people have, they've changed. What people do in life has all changed. And no one understands what things are anymore, because everything gets treated. See, it's really bad, for example, when a Muslim, like remember when the president of Iran, he requested from people to write something about the Holocaust. And they called him what? A Holocaust denier. They said this person doesn't believe in the extermination of the Jews in World War II. And all he said was what? All he said was that we should be studying this subject. However, you got neo-Nazi parties right now operating in Ukraine. Everyone pretends like nothing's happening. Just to give you an idea of where things are understood and way things are seen. The word slave is always seen in a derogatory way, because everyone thinks of what? Everyone thinks of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin and all the slaves that they owned. That's what they think of that in terms of slavery. In that understanding, where free men were stolen from Africa and forced. But servitude and bondage and slavery to Allah Azza wa Jal is by choice. You choose to do this. Allah Azza wa Jal says, La ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in religion. So when Imam al-Sadiq mentions haqiqatul ubudiyyah, what is it? Real servitude, what is it? The question is, the problem is when you see this question, the problem is when someone mentions something, people like to give their own understanding, their own interpretation. That's why we have multitude of opinions of different things. I was sitting with a gentleman recently, and he was trying to convince us that the earth is flat. And that was the discussion. We sat down, I was listening to his arguments, and he showed me this map of earth I'd never seen before. I thought it was cool. I never understood the ice wall. He actually explained it to me, you know? And his ideas were so zany, I almost found, solace in what he was saying. This sounds so cool because the map looked awesome. But I said, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? And when I say evidence, I don't look for scientific evidence that fluctuates and changes. When it comes to creation, I look, where's your evidence from Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger that the earth is flat? Where's your evidence there? This is what I'm saying. Where is your evidence when it comes to this from God and His Messenger? And the Imam alayhim as-salam. Because this is what's important, and this is where people have deviated in their understanding of religion, because they hold their own opinions. So when Anwan al-Basri asked the Imam, he wanted to know from the Imam. I want to understand something. I need to know my religion from the Imam. I need to understand my beliefs from the Imam. One of the scholars that was around in the region, he was in Qom studying in the Hausa. He was only a new student. While he was studying, he had a I wouldn't say it was, you could say, quintessential problem when it came to religion. There was a certain subject in religion, because what happens when you first start studying, one of the worst things about studying in the house at the start is the first year is your biggest test. Because you notice these first year students, if you sit with them, they think they're a marja. Everyone thinks they run everything. He learns 2 words and automatically they think they're in charge of the universe. I understand, and this is where you can deviate. This is where you can say, what does he know? I know this. And you don't realize that the person you're talking to was above you in the study. This person has gone through the period that you've been through. And he's passed it. He's foregone those conclusions, past all these conclusions that you're trying to arrive at. So he said, I had a fundamental question that I couldn't find an answer for. He said, whoever I would ask about my problem would not give me a conclusive answer. So he said, I set on a trip to go to the shrine of Ali ibn Musa al-Redha, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh. Because there's other ulama that you hear their stories. For example, if you hear the story of Mirza Mehdi al-Isfahani, Sheikh Mehdi al-Isfahani, who was someone that was deeply rooted in philosophical study to the point of deviation. After 40 years of this study and indulging in it, and he found himself deviated, he went to Masjid al-Sahla for 40 weeks, 40 Tuesday nights he spent there, until he prayed and prayed and prayed, and he got his answer from Imam Sahib al-Amr, and he changed his way. And of his students, Sayyid Ali Sistani is of his students that are present today. Sayyid Ali Sayyidan, there's several of his students, that Sayyid Taqi al-Qummi, that's named 3, ulama, fuqaha, that are of his students. Now, with the case of this alim, he says, I was young, so I went to Mashhad, and when I arrived at the shrine, he says, I entered the shrine of the Imam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, and he said, before he went there, he said, I reached the point where I felt hopeless. No one could help me. So I went in wholeheartedly. I have no one but you, Ya Ali ibn Musa. He said, I went in there wholeheartedly. I had this problem, and he said that I begged for his assistance. So I was there every moment I could spend it, and I would beg for the assistance of Ali ibn Musa. I'd do dua, and afterwards I would pray. And he said, when I finished the prayer, he said, I sat down and I fell asleep. He said, in my dream, while I was sleeping, he said, I could see 2 shadows inside the darih of the Imam, inside where, if you look at the darih, when I say darih, or the shubbak as they call it, I won't say what Lebanese call it because it's very derogatory. I don't know why they call it that. They call it qafas. But anyway, the thing is, if you look at the darih or the shubbak as they call it, he said I could see 2 shadows in there. And in your dream, sometimes the person doesn't have to turn around and say, I'm so-and-so. You get inspired to know who they are, in your dream. I say, for example, someone's in my dream, I saw this man, he was my brother, but he didn't look like my brother. Sometimes you see it, but you're inspired to know that that was your brother. He says, so the 2 shadows I could see, one was Ali ibn Musa al-Redha alayhi salam. The other one was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. He said, I couldn't hear what they were talking about. But I said, Ya Ali ibn Musa. Called out. Because I was there. He said, that's what I was thinking. He said, as if I could see his hand move and point in a direction. His finger pointed in a direction. He said, and I looked towards that direction. You know how sometimes in a dream, it sounds like a perfect dream. You know, in a dream, you're in one place, and all of a sudden you're in another. He said, where his finger pointed, I was in a cemetery. There in that cemetery, I could see the grave of an alim. I could read the alim's name. He said, and seated at this grave was the alim himself, at his own grave. He said he was dressed in a certain garb, certain color jubba. This, like let's say I'm wearing, they have a jubba, which is the jubba is the one that gets covered up to the top. He said he had abaya, certain color. He said, I remembered it vividly. He had the Holy Quran in his hand. He was reciting it. He had his glasses down as he was reciting it. And he said, I came towards him and I placed my hand on his shoulder. He said he put his glasses forward and looked up at me. He said, as he looked up at me and said, Tfaddal. No? Please, what do you want to say? He said, as I was about to ask him my problem, he says, someone woke me up. You know when that happens? He said, right at the point where I wanted the answer, someone woke me up. He said, I tried to sleep again so I can, you know how we think, we have a feeling that when we see a dream, if I sleep, I can see part 2, you know? You want to see the sequel? So he went back, he said, I saw nothing. He said, I begged, I slept, nothing. You went mad. So he said, Ya Ali ibn Musa, you took me all the way with no response. And then he said, a thought hit my mind. Go look for the grave of the alim. So he said, I walked. It was in the region and vicinity. I walked, and he goes, lo and behold, there was the grave, and seated at the grave was the son of the alim, sitting in the same manner that his father had been sitting, wearing the same garments that I had seen, with the glasses down, reading the Quran. He said, I went towards him, I touched him on his shoulder. He said the same reaction he did, and he looked at me and said, Faddal. He said, this is when I felt, this is the meaning of my dream, and this is where I'm going to get my answer. So he said, that Ali ibn Musa sent me to you. My dream led me to come to you. I need you to give me an answer to my problem. And I said, I told him my problem. He said he sat back and pondered. Then he said to him, I'm going to tell you to do 3 things. And these 3 things, you continuously do them, and then you will find your answers. He said the first thing, this is something for you to honestly do yourself. You know when you've got that congestion in your heart, and I'm not talking about a clogged artery, I'm talking about your metaphysical heart. You feel, that distress where you can't think. There's so much on your mind, so much holding you down. He says you wake up every morning after Salat al-Subh. He says you place your right hand on your heart and on your chest like this and say, Ya Fattah 70 times. Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah. When we say Allah Azza wa Jalla is Fattah, Allah is the one that opens the ways. He opens whatever's sealed, whatever's clogged, Allah will give away. Whatever I see, any road that's blocked, anything where I can't see a way out, Allah Azza wa Jalla will make you a way. So if your soul's all clogged and you cannot see what you want to see, Allah Azza wa Jalla will give you this vision. Say Ya Fattah 70 times. He said the second thing, is you continue visiting the shrine of your Imam. And if you're here, you're not able to visit every day. Does that mean you can't visit? Of course you can. We are told if you can't visit Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, for example, I just turn towards Karbala. They tell you come out under the sky and say, Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Or you could say you're part of the ziyarah, Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Assalamu ala al-Hussein, wa ala Ali ibn al-Hussein, wa ala awlad al-Hussein, wa ala ashab al-Hussein. Say some kind of ziyarah, or Assalamu alayka ya Ali ibn Musa Rada. But this man is in Mashhad. He says to him, every day you come and visit the shrine of the Imam. He said, but when you visit, I don't want you to visit like that story I said before. You're coming here to do everything else except visit. No. You know, sometimes we mention about people coming to the shrine and taking selfies and photos. Not against you taking photos. But if that's what you're there for, that's where the problem comes in. So when you enter, don't enter the shrine. When you come in, you ask for the Imam. Don't enter the shrine half-hearted. You're coming to where your problem is going to be solved. Imagine that. I'm telling you, see this room. When you go into this room, your problem is solved. How would you enter? You'd enter strong. You wouldn't lose any focus because the answers are here. So you enter like that when you come to visit the Imam. You enter with a contrite heart. Have complete hope that your answer's there. You know, sometimes people tell me, I visited the Imam, I didn't get what I wanted. Honestly, I tell them, whenever I go, I always get what I want. Always. And they say, how? I said, because I refuse to be rejected. I refuse to be, when I want something, I refuse to be rejected. Why? This is the Imam. Allah Azza wa Jal says, with him is the answers. So why should I even think twice that I'm going to be rejected? To begin with. And if it's something I want that's not good for me, I don't end up asking for some reason. I get there, like that man I told you about. Remember the one I told you in the ziyarah, where he was traveling towards Haram Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, the Mashai. And I asked him, I said, when you get there, what are you going to ask? You're going to do that, what are you going to ask for? He said, I'm going to ask to be so rich. Remember that story I said? So I'm going to ask to be so rich. He said, on the Mashai, I met him when we got to the other side in Karbala. And I said, did you do your dua? He said, no. I said, why? He said, on the way I was asleep. In my dream, he said, I woke up and my bank account was full. He actually told me the number. The number was huge. It was more than 7 and 8 figures. A huge number. And it was like, started off with a 9. So there were several numbers in there. He said to the cent, he understood what he saw. He said, when I saw all this money, he said, I went and rented out a penthouse in a hotel in the city for a year. He said, I organized DJs, I made a party, I ended bringing up the most illicit women on the planet. And everyone I could have, and I had a massive party. And he said, when I woke up, I said, what have I done? And he said, so when I arrived, he said, I didn't ask for any money. It was like I got a glimpse of where I would end up. Some people, they're not meant to have money. Some people are meant to have money. Some people are meant to just have their daily bread, and that suffices them. But when I ask, I need to ask with a contrite heart and with belief that the answers will not be rejected. Finally, or as they say, last but not least, definitely not least, he said you have to recite the Quran. Now sometimes people tell you don't recite only, you need to tama'an. No, just even recitation. Even to look at to open the Quran and look at the Quran is worship. Just to open, look at the words is worship. He said just sit and recite the Quran. So he said, I began to do this. Every morning, Ya Fattah, Ziyarat Imam Rida, and he said, and I would recite the Quran in the shrine. Day after day, I completed the Quran once. I completed the Quran a second time. He said, completed. He said, upon the third time when I was reading it, the first verse I read, he said, like a doorway opened in my mind. The second verse, something else opened up. He said, like a new chapter in my life came. And the people that used to study with this alim would say that when they sat with him and he would explain the Quran, it was in a way they had never heard before. You know, the ones that blow your mind. They don't tell you something that's wrong or something that's make-believe or something where they've just constructed it. It's something that's in line, but it just gives, like when you read the Quranic verse, you read it once, you see it from one angle. You read it a second time, you see it from another angle, and then another angle, another angle. Then once you think you've understood it, someone else comes and he shows you Allah Azza wa Jal's words and how perpetual they are. The perpetuity of Allah's words. They resonate in your soul and they're there for eternity. So when the Imam, going back to our story, when Anwan al-Basri asked him about what is true servitude and worship, the Imam begins, he says, it is three things. I'm asking the Imam to give me guidance. The first thing he says, أن لا يرى العبد لنفسه فيما خوله الله إليه ملكه. This will solve all our problems, really. He said not to perceive anything that Allah خوله إليه. You know what that means? Allah has entrusted you with as your property. In other words, your wealth is not your wealth. You know, some people think they own their children. You don't own your children. You don't own yourself. Everything you have is who? تبارك الذي بيده الملك. All sovereignty, all ownership is with Allah Azza wa Jal. That's why when all creation dies and Allah calls out, when everything is dead, nothing exists, Allah will call out, لمن الملك اليوم. And no one respond. Who owns everything today? You know, whenever people say, Hada Mali, this is mine, this is yours, we have people arguing. You know, one of the worst things you'll find is when inheritance, where they argue about it and families stop talking over this. They fight over something that's going to be passed down anyway. You know, they fight over lands that they're never going to touch. Just pieces of paper. لمن الملك اليوم Allah Azza wa Jalla. Who owns everything today? No one responds, because why? Everyone's dead. Then Allah responds to himself. And he says, Lillah الواحد القهار. Allah, the one that has overcome. قهر عباده بالموت والفناء. Allah has overcome everyone with death. Everything is. So if I don't see anything that Allah has entrusted me with as my property, because he says, لأن العبيد لا يكون لهم ملك, because slaves have no property. See, once you perceive yourself as a slave, you truly start believing this. I own nothing. Why is this important? You will see as we move along. Why is it important to have this thought? Then he says, number 2, وَلَا يُدَبِّرُ الْعَبْدُ لِنَفْسِهِ تَدْبِيرًا. Firstly, don't see anything that's with you as yours. You've just been entrusted with it. You can't say, this is my finger. So this is why when people do things to themselves and they tell you it's my life, no, it's not your life. If it's your life, you think you're the master. Yes. You think there is no God, go, it's your life. No, it's not your choice. You have the freedom to choose to be God's slave or not. But it's not your choice if you look at it. If eventually you want to enter paradise, that's the question, that's the answer. If I eventually want to go to paradise, then it's not my choice. وَلَا يُدَبِّرُ الْعَبْدُ لِنَفْسِهِ تَدْبِيرًا. And the servant that chooses to be the slave of God does not plan or manage for themselves. You don't plan or manage for yourself. What does this mean? Just let me finish and we'll explain. I'm answering myself. وَلَا يُدَبِّرُ الْعَبْدُ لِنَفْسِهِ تَدْبِيرًا وَجُمْلَةُ اشْتِغَالِهِ فِيمَا أَمَرَهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى بِهِ وَنَهَاهُ عَنْ. So they don't plan or manage for themselves because the entirety of their preoccupation is with what God has commanded and forbidden. Why? Because they're more preoccupied with the hereafter than this world, which is logical. If you believe in the hereafter, if you don't, well, I don't. Honestly, it's like when I told you, when I see the atheist keyboard warriors, they sit on the internet and they're debating with people. I say, why do you debate with everybody? That's the first thing. I used to debate with a lot of people from Sweden. A lot of these atheists, I'll be talking to them. And I tell them, listen, I'm only talking to you is because if you become a Muslim, all the good actions you do, I get rewarded. So I've got a benefit of talking to you. I'm selfishly talking to you. I said, but what do you gain by making me an atheist? What do you gain? If you're not believing in God, why would you waste your time to make people godless? Why? Why would you waste it? Let them be. And then they give you the answer, which is the most stupid answer you can give. He says, because your religion's a religion of death, destruction, terrorism. And I say, if that's the case, we're almost 2 billion. You would all be dead by now. This is illogical. If we were all hell-bent on killing everybody, none of you would be alive. Do you imagine just the population of Muslims in Australia strap themselves with explosives? This whole Terra Australis, what would it become? Dreamtime. There'd be nothing left. There'd be no one to play a didgeridoo. Everyone's gone. So where do you come up with these ideas and these concepts? Where are they formulated? So if you're living for this world, you live for this world. But if you're living for the hereafter, why would you waste your time with this life? This life that never works out the way you plan it. Doesn't mean I don't study. I study, I work, I interact, but expect the unexpected. Don't expect like one of the brothers, I remember, he studied and he became an engineer. He told me I didn't enjoy the job, he became a public servant. Another brother studied, became an engineer. Didn't enjoy his job, he studied, became a lawyer. You don't know what direction you end up with. I remember when a friend of mine told me that they had, how they have the year 12 reunions. And they went and met up. And he asked me, the guy I used to go to school with, he said, why don't you come? I said, well, these things you have, you're going to have alcohol and all that. And I'm Muslim, I can't be there. He said, you wouldn't believe what took place there. And I said, what? He said, the ducks of the year. And when he's saying the ducks, I think my year, we probably had about 4 or 5 people got a 100 TER. Back then, this is before UAI, and so we had some real guns. You know what I mean? And he said the ducks is working in a call center for Optus. That's where he ended up, one of these centers that works in Optus. It's back then. The ducks, the guy that finished first. He said, as for the guy that was the dunce, that finished at the bottom, he says he's a professor in a university in South Australia. You don't know which direction I'm not saying this will always happen, but you don't know where life leads, what direction you head into, where you're going. But you do know for your hereafter where you're heading by what you do. Did you know that? That's the only one that you can set. I can choose now, I want to go to heaven. I can choose to go. It's not a lucky dip. It's not guess how many jelly beans are in the jelly bean jar. Okay, it's none of that. You're not buying a lottery ticket here. You say, I want to go to heaven, tota ticket, go to heaven. That's it. You say, I don't want to go to heaven, tota ticket, get a ticket and go to hell. فإذا لم يرى العبد لنفسه فيما خوله الله تعالى ملكا هان عليه الإنفاق. If a person doesn't see what Allah has entrusted him to be his property, it's easier for them to give. When you tell them give in the way of God, they give straight away. Why? They don't see it as property. It's not mine. I'll give you an example. How easy is it for you to be generous with someone else's money? Imagine someone said, here's my safe, I've opened it up for you, take what you want to use. Poor people come and go, here you go. You start giving it out. It's not your hard work. That's how you got to see your property. It's God's. So I've got to do it the way God asked me to do it. He says, هان عليه الإنفاق فيما أمره الله تعالى أن ينفق فيه. So if they do not see that their property that they're being trusted with is actually God's, okay, then if they do not see their property as theirs, and it's God's, it'll be easy for them to give in the way of Allah, how Allah has commanded them. وَإِذَا فَوَّضَ الْعَبْدُ تَدْبِيرَ نَفْسِهِ عَلَى مُدَبِّرِهِ هَانَ عَلَيْهِ مَصَائِبِ الدُّنْيَا. If you stop worrying about how things work out in planning and managing, no matter what calamity befalls you, you won't find it problematic. Why? Because you know this isn't essential. I'm here for a test. I don't need to have anything from this dunya. I should be happy with whatever I get. Imagine like jumping on a flight, those cheap flights, like really cheap. I was once flying from Luton in the UK to Stockholm. And I got on this plane, it was called Ryanair. And forget Tiger Airlines, this is on another level. It's probably the cheapest airline I've ever been on. That's the way they treat us. All these people, they have an idea that when a speaker goes overseas, they fly business class. No. They'll throw you on Ryanair. They throw in the cheapest thing they can put you on. The cheapest thing. A lot of the senators, how they treat you. That's the reality people don't know about. And no, you're not in a 7-star hotel. They put you in any shack they can put you in. That's the reality of the way the treatment is, in case people think otherwise. So I'm on this plane, Ryanair, and it was the first time in my life I heard a steward use a 4-letter expletive. I've never heard someone use that word to one of the passengers. I was shocked, But I was sitting there, I'm just going to Stockholm, I'm happy to have a seat. I'm actually sitting down. This is how you should be when you're in the dunya. I'm happy to be here. Look, it's a warm room. There's electricity. That's enough. I'm only here for a short time. Whatever I'm given, I'm happy with. It's sufficient. You don't worry about what calamity befalls you. This happened, good. It's only for the dunya. It's only for now. When it's finished, I get everything in full. I get a full compensation for the entirety of my life, for entirety of the hereafter that I'll be there. Now, someone might say, what if there is, people say, what if there isn't a hereafter? Let's say, and it's not true, but let's say that's your idea. You live a happier life because you're not stressing out all the time. Anyway, you're going to live a happier life to have this mentality when you're not too attached to what is terminal and transient. But that, not even for a moment, is true. And that's another discussion altogether. And then it says, the third one we said, وَإِذَا اشْتَغَلَ الْعَبْدُ بِمَا أَمَرَهُ اللَّهُ. If someone engages in what Allah has commanded him and forbidden him, engages in what's permissible, not permissible, what's obligatory, not obligatory, in their prayers, abstaining from sin, all that. بما أمره الله تعالى ونهاه لا يتفرغ منهما إلى المراء والمباهات مع الناس. If someone engages themselves in worrying about what's permissible and what's not, what's obligatory and what's not, then they will not devote themselves to what? Al-mira. Okay? Al-mira and mubahat. Okay? Al-mira is when you think that you're morally better than others. When you look down upon others. When you try and view yourself in that way, or mubahat where you flaunt it. You know? Where you actually go out there and show it. In other words, pretty much Instagram. So you won't worry about what Instagram, which is your better side. You don't care. Because you're more worried about doing what is necessary for the next world. So you don't care about keeping up with the Joneses. You don't care about getting the better life. You don't care about getting that expensive pair of shoes or that expensive handbag or going to that expensive place. You know? People want to tell you, where did you, what ring did you get? I got this ring. Where did you go for your honeymoon? I went to this place. What car do you drive? I drive this car. You won't need to worry about all these. Why? Because you're too preoccupied with worrying about what is necessary for the next world. He says, فَإِذَا أَكْرَمَ اللَّهُ الْعَبْدُ بِهَذِهِ الثَّلَاثَةِ هَانَ عَلَيْهِ الدُّنْيَا وَإِبْلِيسُ وَالْخَالِقِ. If someone becomes preoccupied, Allah honors the person to preoccupy him with these three things. Allah preoccupies you with not seeing what you have as your property. If Allah honors you with not seeing what you have as your property and not preoccupying you with this world. How? By not worrying about planning and managing everything. Things don't need to be perfect. You know, when you buy a car, it doesn't need to be perfect. You see these teenagers, a lot of them, they buy a car and it becomes a money pit. All they do is keep putting money into it. Why? Because something goes wrong. There's a crack in a window, he has got to fix it. Leave it. If it's not unsafe, leave it. Don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself. You know, like, the colors, if you look at it from this angle, they're not the same. Let's rub it back, take it to the panel beater, respray the whole car. That's what they do. Leave it. Don't worry about it. Preoccupy yourself with the hereafter. If I have these three things, he says, Hana alayhi dunya. Dunya becomes what? It becomes nothing to him. It becomes easy, as if it's nothing. Wa iblis wal khalq. And the shaitan becomes nothing. Shaitan has no more ammunition. Devil has no ammunition because you're not up for what he's got. You know, he can't open up the back of his van and say, look what products are on offer. I'm not interested. Keep walking. And the creation won't bother you anymore. You really don't care. What do they have? Who cares? That's their problem. Not my problem. You live a better life. This is what he is saying. The problem is people don't see what is better. Why? Because sometimes they say, hold on, my life's all right. One of the ulama, he had a friend who didn't believe in Islam. He was someone that followed another religion. He was living in Iran. They were both living in Iran, but he'd visit the alim, but he didn't believe. So the alim said to him, why don't you come our way? Learn about our religion and follow our understanding in our ways. And he said, well, look, I've seen no problems in my religion. Sometimes people go, look, I go to church every Sunday. The community in church is really nice. You've seen these people. I don't know if has any of you ever belonged or seen church communities? You know, they're like a family. They're happy. They've got no issues. They sit together. They enjoy functions together. They say, look, I'll have a good time. We all sing praises. You know, if I go to, one of my neighbors is on one side is a Buddhist. And he goes to the temple out in Maroubra. and he's a really nice guy. He enjoys his life. He's a good neighbor. You know, he's happy with his religion. He's happy with what he follows. So this guy said, I have no problems in my religion. Because their problem is what? They're not worried about the belief. Is the belief you're actually believing genuine or not? That's the problem. It's not about I feel happy. Yeah, I can feel happy doing anything. You know, I could sit there getting a foot massage for the rest of my life. I love this. You know, I don't need to do anything else, you know. But does that mean that's what's required? No. What is the requirement? I need to be following something that's true, that's genuine. So he said, I don't see anything wrong with my religion to leave it. He said, however, I attend the majalis. When you have Ashura, I attend and I cry over Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. He said, and in fact, when a group from the area went to visit, because they went to Mashhad to visit the shrine of Ali ibn Musa al-Redha alayhi salam, I went with them. He said, however, when I got there, they told me that I couldn't go in because I wasn't a believer. He said, so I went towards the courtyard. You see, you know when you actually go into we're not talking about Masala Fiqhiyya, I'm just telling you the story. Don't say why didn't he go in or didn't he go in. I'm telling you what the story was, all right? So he said, when I arrived, because it's not considered the ahkam of the masjid, but that's not something we're going to talk about right now. So when he arrived, he said that I noticed something. And this is what happens when you go to the shrines. Remember I told you, when you get to Ali ibn Musa al-Redha, if it's exam time, you see the students, they sit there. They're not at home studying, they also come to the shrine and ask for help there. Someone needs, they come there. And if you came past someone's house and you saw poor people around the house, beggars, and every day you go there, they're there. Different beggars come all the time. It's not like Ebenezer Scrooge. You know, it's not like the Dickensian story where someone that doesn't give. We're talking about someone that gives. So people keep coming. When you go to Ali ibn Musa al-Redha, when you're in a hospital, you have an illness, the doctor says your cure is over there. You want something, this is where you go. I understand. Okay? I understand. I saw when Hajj Rabi'a was standing. Inshallah khair. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Yeah. So, when he went to the shrine, he said, I noticed all these people going there. And if someone gives, people come. Someone's miserly, people won't turn up. So he said, I wanted to enter. He said, look, I'm wearing socks. He said, I was in the courtyard. I'll take off my shoes and I'll go inside. I've got socks on. They told me I can't be in there, but I'll go in. So I walked in. I came around and followed where the people are following, and I saw them all moving towards the Shubbak. They're moving towards Darih Ali ibn Musa. And he said, I saw them wiping their hands as if they're touching the face of a relative that they haven't seen in a long time, a loved one, with affection. And they kissed it, and the tears that would come down from their eyes. He said, I couldn't bear, I had to go. He said, maybe I would offend them if my friends saw me. He said, so I went outside again and I purchased gloves. To that point, I wanted to touch. He said, then I touched the darih of the Imam salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. He said, then I left. The Alim said, all this. He said, yeah, I don't know. So the Alim said, this friend of his left. Years later, he said his children came to visit him. And they said, our father just passed away. But he asked for you to do what? He said, to take him his last, he had written in his will, he said to wash him and shroud him and bury him with the Muslims. Because before the time came, he had testified in the belief of Allah and in his messenger and the Imam alayhi salam. One visit. This is the effect of the visit. The effect of getting that vision of seeing this and the people that flock to visit the Imam. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us all in this year, not next year, this year, in the quickest time possible. Allah grants us the opportunity to visit the shrine of Ali ibn Musa al-Redha salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, and grant us his intercession in the day of judgment. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali at-tayyibin at-tahirin.
Thank you, Sheikh, for that amazing lecture. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, for Sheikh Mohammed and his family. Just before we continue, I'd just like to talk about the next 2 Fridays and the programs that IHIC will be holding. Next Friday, there will be a panel of speakers with the Q&A about the importance of khums and zakat by Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi and Sheikh Mansour. And the Friday after, there will be no program, inshallah. Now we have a special guest tonight who will be presenting a new Islamic board game which will be available to purchase tonight in the reception area. I will call on Brother Yusuf Mahmoudi on the stage, who is one of the founders of the Miras Games, to introduce this new and exciting game. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
All right, so just one minute. Yeah. So, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Inshallah, Imam Reza will be Shafi in dunya and akhirah. This is Yusuf, one of the founders of Miras Games. So on this amazing night and program, I would like to introduce a unique Islamic board game called Munahimana. I just want to make sure we have that on the screen. Yes, Ali? It's coming? All right, so the name of the game is Munahimana, the chosen one, which has been designed by our startup, which called Miras Games. This is an Islamic family game, a lot of fun for the family, gathering, socializing, and having quality time with your families and friends. It's been designed in a way that you can play the game with anyone within the community and beyond. I mean, Muslim and non-Muslim with zero knowledge about Islam can play and enjoy. In fact, the game is self-explanatory and the player will learn as play. Yes, as you can see on the screen, but not that much big. So the first thing which actually catches your eye when you look at the game at first is its artwork. The game's artwork is quite impressive, along with the very premium production quality. The game is about how you would be able to help the Prophet of Islam at the very beginning in terms of building the Islamic civilization. In terms of gameplay, there are different characters, roles, cards, and tiles which can increase the XP in the quest to support the Prophet of Islam and his mission. They all rely on building patterns, making your tribe or territory, and empower it with civilizing powers to be able to receive higher scores and win the games. This game has 3 modes to play: routine, co-op, and solo. So I'm sure you all actually are familiar with solo and co-op mode, but for those of you who are interested in competition, so you can actually get together and basically have a sort of competition with routine mode. The best part of this game is until you finish the game, you don't know who is going to win, which is very exciting because everyone has to do his best until end. So in summary, this is a game full of entertainment and fun. At the same time, very educational. There are over 30 Islamic facts and historical events that the players can learn from while playing the game. Indirect teaching is a key benefit of this game. It could be used as a supplementary tool for facilitator for the teachers and parents to teach Islamic content to their students or children. So here you can see actually the game box itself, and these are the components of the game. So you can see a bunch of tiles, cards, and actually bags, which you're gonna basically create different patterns, creating your tribes, and actually having fun. So tonight, basically, we have prepared a table to present the game and an opportunity to purchase the game for anyone who is interested. We have 2 specials for anyone who buy the game tonight, 10% discount on the product. The regular price of the game is $61.99, but now it's just 55.80 cents. And also, it's a free shipping tonight because we have provided a limited stock for tonight in IHIC. So please feel free to come along and see me and talk about the game. And if you have any question, just let me know, and we can actually have a chat about that. Thank you very much for your time.
Salam. One of the lucky door prizes will be the new board game. Just before we continue the program, I'd like to call up Brother Ali Sharif for a special presentation.
Okay, Hassan, thank you very much. I'll just take a brief moment to sorry about that slight interruption. It's interesting that Reza asked me to do something, and we'll get there. But before we do, I just want to, on behalf of the Imam Islamic Center, I'm sure that you've noticed that we've had a number of changes in terms of the events and how we're running the programs, and a few changes here and there, and lots of things going on in the background, especially if you're working with any of the volunteers. And that is thanks a lot to do with one of our dear brothers who is on and off the stage sometimes and has been on the stage a lot this evening, is our dear brother Reza Lagai. He has done a magnificent job and has been working to do a couple of really important and interesting things. One of them is to bring some new things to the programs. And secondly, that is based on the kind of feedback and the support and the suggestions that we're actively seeking from the community, from yourselves, from the people who take part in the programs, whether you're sitting here or whether you're outside organizing, and so on and so on. And without going into a great deal of detail, because all of this is the detail of and a result of a lot of the hard work that's been going on, I just on behalf of the center, we'd like to just recognize a lot of that effort that Brother Reza has been putting in. And it's, I think, a great night, seeing that it is the celebration of Imam Reda's birthday, after whom Reza is named, to make him a little bit shy and also present him with a little gift.
You did. That was not part of the plan. Considering I'm supposed to know the plan, obviously this part I wasn't aware of it. But thank you very much, Brother Ali and the community. And honestly, I did nothing. All the work is a lot of the people from behind the scenes, like Brother Ali Merhi, Ahmed, Ali Sharif, managing, well, the entire setup there. And all the other brothers and sisters behind the scenes. If I can ask everyone to say loud salawat to all the volunteers. And allow the salawat for those who want to become a volunteer.
If we can please recite aloud salawat as we ask Brother Aziz Al-Hajjuj on the stage for a beautiful Arabic and Nasheed recitation. Salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أدم الصلاة على النبي محمد. اللهم صل على فقبولها حتما بدون تردد أعمالنا بين القبول وردها إلا الصلاة على الحبيب محمد. في الإمام الرضا لقد تهت فكرا نحو مغنى لست أستطيع صبرا حار شعري فليس أحسن شعرا قيل لي أنت أوحد الناس طرا في فنون من الكلام النبي. اللهم صل. هو من كان للنفوس أنيسا وبه الله قد أضاء الشموس. أنت في حبه شربت كؤوسا فعلى ما تركت مدح ابن موسى والخصال التي تجمعن فيه. اللهم صل. يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى طير حبك شادا والمديح ابتدى وزاد شوقي إليكم يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى. I want to hear your voices as well. يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد الله رغم طول البعاد لأجلك الشوق زاد رغم طول البعاد لأجلك الشوق زاد كل ما صحت باسمك ما يعيد الصدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى وإن مسكت الضريح قول همك وبيح وإن مسكت الضريح قول همك وبيح نادي الله سألتك بالرضا يا خدا يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى مولدك يا علي عيد واضح جلي مولدك يا علي عيد واضح جلي للموالي سعادة تجلي هم وردا يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد المدى يا بعيد ضامن الجنة الرضا فاعرفنه هو شمس الشموس والنور منه عجزت ألسن الفصاحة عنه عجزت ألسن الفصاحة عنه ولهذا القريض لا يحتويه صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أحسن الله إليكم.
Salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for that amazing nasheed. If I can now ask Hajj Abu Ahmad on the stage to recite some more amazing nasheed about Imam Ridha alayhi salam. Salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى اللهم صل على علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى الإمام التقي النقي وحجتك على من فوق الأرض ومن تحت الثرى. الصديق الشهيد صلوات كثيرة تامة زاكية متواصلة متراترة مترادفة كأفضل ما صليت على أحد من أوليائك صلوات. ماذا أقول بشأنه وجلاله؟ ماذا أقول بشأنه وجلاله وهو الذي بلغ العلا بكماله؟ ماذا أقول بشأنه وجلاله وهو الذي بلغ العلا بكماله؟ والله أقسم في الكتاب بحسنه والشمس إذ كشفت دجى بجماله وبوصفه الخلق العظيم ولم يكن عجبا فقد حسن الجميع خصاله. ولأجله لولاك عنوان العلا فتنبؤوا يا سامعي أحواله فلتسألوا المولى الجليل بجاهه صلوا عليه وآله. لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت حب الوصي وغذتني باللبن. لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت حب الوصي وغذتني باللبن. وكان لي أبا يهوى أبا حسن فصرت من ذا وذي أهوى أبا حسن صلوات. دخلام يا إمام الثامن دخلام يا إمام الثامن دخلام يا إمام الثامن دخلام يا إمام من دخلام يا إمام الثامن دخلام يا الثامن دخلام يا إمام هشتمين خورشید که به دلم تابی تو قبرم اولین آقا امیدم با زیارت نامه دلم آرومه عیدیم میگیرم امشب از معصومه دم به دم بر همه دم بر گل رخسار محمد صلوات.
Thank you, Hajj Abu Ahmed, for the beautiful recitation. Please say a loud salawat for Hajj Abu Ahmed and his family. Now for the exciting part, being the lucky door prize and gifts. If I can ask Hajj Ali Sharif to start this program, start the part of this program, and after we will conclude with Dua Faraj. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.